One of the things I love about social media is the way that diverse communities can come together, learn information that they would not otherwise be exposed to. And I've always loved, as a public speaker, the engagement with the audience. So shout out to Jeff Olson for opening the door to this video, and also to Lynn Reynolds St. John, two longtime Loveland, Colorado residents who commented on the Loveland Reporter Herald's post that was made on January 2nd, 2025, about Loveland's city manager. Loveland's new city manager, that is. So the first comment on the Loveland Reporter Herald's post was by Jeff Olson, and he says, "If you assault a female reporter, you can get a raise here. Just letting you know. I so hope he does a better job than Adams, but the love for money here is strong." Now, Jeff Olson is a longtime Loveland resident. He owned a business in Loveland for more than 30 years, and he has a lot of experience with the City of Loveland government. He has been the target of retaliation by the City of Loveland, and he unfortunately has a lot of experience with the Larimer County justice system as well, where he was also targeted. So Jeff Olson, his comment on that Reporter Herald post opened the door for me to explain a little bit about why the Loveland new city manager is relevant to Sheriff John Feyen's decades of corruption, and actually how the City of Loveland ties into the decades of corruption at the Larimer County District Attorney's Office and the Larimer County Sheriff's Office, Loveland Police Department, Fort Collins Police Department. All of the law enforcement agencies are directly tied to the corruption in Loveland and the Loveland Police Department specifically. So Jeff Olson opened the door for me to comment about those issues, and for clarity, accuracy in the record, I'm just going to read what I wrote on the Reporter Herald's Facebook page, because the way comments work on their page, most people likely won't see it, and it's quite important for the community to know what's actually happening. So this is word for word from my Facebook post comment on the Reporter Herald's page. And I'm also reading it word for word so that if you are listening to these videos that I'm posting as you drive or as you do other tasks throughout your day, you don't actually have to look at the screen, you can just listen. So my response to Jeff Olson: Steve Adams is a symptom of a monstrous problem that has not been solved simply because a new city manager was hired. Loveland Police Department is still being run by thugs, Chief Tim Doran and Bob Coleman included, who openly support and are openly supported by Sheriff John Feyen. Feyen was elected because he lied to the voters about his own illegal actions that began 23 years ago in 2002 in Estes Park. Feyen was endorsed by Sheriff Justin Smith because he, Smith, and Feyen intentionally, for 8 years, hid the records of their illegal actions with the illegally attached GPS tracker cell phone tap. Former LPD Chief Luke Hecker literally handed off his decades of corrupt practices to Tim Doran, and he did it in plain sight. Remember, it was Steve Adams who picked Tim Doran at the same time Adams was being prosecuted for the crime you, meaning Jeff Olson, mentioned in your comment. All of that thuggery was fed by decades of dirty winks and filthy nods by the 8th Judicial District Attorney's Office, beginning way back in 1973 with Stuart VanMeveren. Remember how he covered up the sex crime committed by another DA against a 16-year-old girl. Through Larry Abrahamson and Cliff Riedel, until finally the old blood, dirty Republicans lost twice to current District Attorney Gordon McLaughlin. Is Dawn Downs part of that cabal? Perhaps. Downs, even though she decided not to run against McLaughlin as a Republican, was endorsed by the worst of the old blood Republican thugs. To be clear, Downs is no stranger to John Feyen's illegal acts. She proudly touts her relationship with him and has intimate knowledge of what goes down with dirty cops in Loveland and beyond. What does this trip down history lane have to do with Loveland's city manager? Nothing has changed. The corrupt cabal, including some current Loveland city councilors, refresh your memories about political endorsements, is still running the circus. If the new city manager came to Loveland clean, it will be dangerously difficult for him to stay that way. Now, Lynn Reynolds St. John is also a longtime Loveland resident. She has courageously spoken out against many issues in the city of Loveland. When doing so, actually risked her own safety and her own well-being, but that didn't stop Lynn. And I do want to give a nod to her late husband, Randy, who was a wonderful human being as well. It's people like Lynn and Randy and Jeff who are the heart and soul of Loveland, Colorado. The corruption and the dirty politics that plague Loveland and Larimer County as a whole are coming to an end. It is people like Jeff and Lynn, many others that will be featured in future videos who do have courage, who are not afraid to risk their own businesses, their own safety, and in doing so actually lose relationships through the process of standing up for the truth and standing up for justice. All political parties contain thugs. But in Larimer County, Colorado, the Republican Party is extraordinarily corrupt and was in control for many decades. Stuart VanMeveren was the 8th Judicial District Attorney from 1973 to 2005. A conference room in the DA's office was named after VanMeveren, and the room was intended for victims to feel safe and comfortable because VanMeveren supposedly made victims of a crime big priority while he was in office as district attorney. Except that VanMeveren hid the truth about his district attorney who sexually assaulted a 16-year-old. Former 8th Judicial District Chief Deputy District Attorney Dan Quinn, decades later, was prosecuted for sexually assaulting a 16-year-old intern. Current District Attorney Gordon McLaughlin stripped Stuart VanMeveren's name from the conference room. This is District Attorney Gordon McLaughlin's statement on Daniel Quinn. In 2024, Don Downs campaigned to become Larimer County's next elected district attorney. Sheriff John Feyen, the same law enforcement officer who illegally tracked and tapped me, endorses Don Downs for district attorney. Don Downs is intimately aware of John Feyen's illegal actions as a cop. A cop who has a sustained pattern of breaking the law should be a gigantic red flag to a woman who wants to be the district attorney. Instead, Don Downs is openly proud of Feyen. John Feyen, while wearing his sheriff costume, endorses Don Downs. Feyen has a long history of violating the Constitution and hiding his illegal actions, but that doesn't stop him from pretending to care about the office of district attorney. During John Feyen's campaign for sheriff, he tried to switch from the Republican Party to the Democrat Party because he was being beaten by his Republican opponent. The Democrat Party said no thanks to John. Sheriff Justin Smith knew about Feyen's illegal actions as a cop because Smith helped Feyen cover it up. Loveland City Manager Steve Adams was charged, prosecuted, and sentenced for a crime at the same time he hired the new police chief. Luke Hecker knowingly employed cops who routinely broke the law. Hecker touched Doran's badge as assigned to deviant officers. Forced to retire Loveland Police Chief Luke Hecker is seen in this photo walking with Detective Brian Koopman. Koopman was felony charged for lying to a judge during a homicide case. He was ultimately acquitted, but the Weld County District Attorney's Office Brady listed Brian Koopman. That means Brian Koopman had a sustained pattern of lying under oath as a law enforcement officer. Bob Tyser replaced Luke Hecker. Bob Tyser knew that Brian Koopman was Brady listed, but continued to have Brian Koopman work as a detective. Tim Doran replaced disgraced Bob Tyser. Bob Tyser knowingly and intentionally employed a Brady cop and other deviant officers. Bob Tyser replaced Luke Hecker. LPD Chief Tim Doran was hired by Criminal City Manager Steve Adams. This screen grab is from the press conference about Dylan Miller, a Loveland cop who raped a girl when he was on duty and in uniform. LPD Public Information Officer Bob Coleman is Sheriff John Feyen's former captain at Larimer County Sheriff's Office. Bob Coleman investigated Feyen because Feyen illegally attached a GPS tracker to an SUV without a warrant and left it on the vehicle for at least 4 months. Sheriff John Feyen lied to the voters about his 20-plus years of illegal actions as a cop. This is only the beginning of monumental revelations about Larimer County's official corruption.